Let me be brutally honest with you today. And I mean brutally. Not the kind of honest that makes you feel good while pretending to be hard. The kind of honest that lands somewhere uncomfortable and stays there long enough to actually change something. Here it is. Nobody cares. Not the way you think they do, not the way you need them to, not in the way that justifies how much of your precious, irreplaceable, finite time and energy you have been spending thinking about what they think, worrying about their opinions, adjusting your behavior to manage their perceptions, living your life through the filter of how it looks to people who are mostly too busy thinking about themselves to spend more than a passing moment thinking about you. Nobody cares. And I know that sounds harsh. I know that the first reaction to hearing that is something between offense and sadness, because we want people to care. We are wired to want people to care. The need for belonging, for validation, for the approval of our social group is one of the most fundamental human drives. It kept our ancestors alive. Being accepted by the group meant safety. Being rejected meant danger. That wiring is ancient and deep, and it does not disappear just because the world has changed. But here is what has changed. The world you are living in now is not the small tribe of 50 people your ancestors navigated. It is a world of billions, a world where you are comparing yourself to and performing for and seeking approval from people you have never met and will never meet. A world where the opinion of a stranger on the internet can ruin your morning, where the fear of what people you barely know might think about your choices is keeping you from making the choices that would actually build the life you want. And in that world, the ancient wiring that was designed to keep you safe is keeping you stuck. Because the people whose opinions you are so afraid of are not thinking about you. They are thinking about themselves. They are managing their own fears and their own insecurities and their own desperate need for approval from other people. They are performing for their own audience, worrying about their own image, carrying their own weight of what everyone else might be thinking. Everyone is the main character of their own story, and in most people's stories, you are a minor character at best, a background detail, an extra who appears briefly and then is forgotten because the protagonist is too busy managing their own narrative to spend much time thinking about yours. This is not a cynical statement about human nature, it is a liberating one. Because if nobody is watching as closely as you think, if nobody is judging as harshly as you fear, if the audience you have been performing for your entire life is mostly looking in a different direction, then you are free, more free than you have allowed yourself to feel in a very long time. Free to make the choices that actually matter, free to build the life that actually fits you, free to stop performing and start living. But freedom is only useful if you know what to do with it, and that is where the second part of this truth comes in. Focus on yourself. Not in the selfish, self-absorbed, I do not care about anyone else way that phrase sometimes implies, in the radical, life-changing, I am going to take full responsibility for my own growth and development and future way that it actually means when lived correctly. Focusing on yourself means understanding something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The only person whose development you have full control over is you. The only habits you can build are yours. The only mindset you can change is yours. The only life you can transform is yours. And if you are spending the energy and attention and focus that belongs to that transformation on managing what other people think of you, you are making a trade that you will regret for the rest of your life. You are trading your potential for their approval, and their approval, even when you get it, does not build anything. It does not make you stronger, it does not develop your skills, it does not move you toward your goals, it does not create the life you want. It just feels good for a moment and then disappears and leaves you needing more. It's an addiction. The approval of other people is an addiction. It gives you a temporary hit of feeling accepted and valued and seen, and then it fades, and you need another hit, And so you keep performing and adjusting and shrinking yourself to fit the expectations of people who are not invested in your actual well-being, who will not be there when the cost of all that performing comes due, who are simply the audience for a show you never actually wanted to put on. Stop the show. Start building something real. Let me tell you what happens when you genuinely, fully, completely shift your focus from what other people think to what you are actually building. When you take all the energy that was going into managing perceptions and redirect it toward managing your own growth, everything accelerates. The goals that seemed impossible when you were distracted by the noise of other people's opinions suddenly become achievable when all your attention is on them. The habits that kept failing when you were building them for other people's approval suddenly stick when you are building them for yourself. The version of you that felt stuck and small and limited when you were filtering every decision through what people might think suddenly starts to expand when the filter is removed and you are just living according to what you actually believe is right for your life. And here is the thing about living for other people's approval that destroys your performance in every area. When you are doing something to impress someone, your focus is split. Part of you is on the task, part of you is on the audience, and that split focus produces split results, mediocre results, results that reflect the fact that your energy was divided between doing and performing. But when you are doing something for yourself, when the only opinion that matters is the honest assessment of whether you are growing and improving and becoming the person you are trying to become, the focus becomes singular, total, and singular, total focus on your own growth produces results that split focus never can. This is why the people who seem to be succeeding at an extraordinary level, the ones whose progress seems almost unfair compared to everyone else, are almost universally people who have stopped caring what the crowd thinks and started caring what their own honest self-assessment says. They are not performing, they are building, and the difference in output between a performer and a builder is enormous. Now I want to address the fear that is underneath all of this, because when I say nobody cares and tell you to focus on yourself, I know the fear that rises in response. The fear of being alone. The fear that if you stop performing for the crowd and start living for yourself, the crowd will disappear entirely. That the connections you have, even the shallow ones built on performance and approval seeking, will evaporate. That focusing on yourself is a path to isolation. I need you to hear this clearly. The opposite is true. When you stop performing and start being genuinely yourself, when you stop adjusting and shrinking in managing your image and start simply living according to your actual values and building your actual life, the quality of your connections improves dramatically. Not the quantity necessarily, but the quality. Because authentic people attract authentic people. When you show up as the real version of yourself rather than the performed version, you stop attracting people who were only connecting with the performance, and you start attracting people who connect with what is actually real about you. People who see you as you actually are and choose to be in your life on that basis. Those connections are worth infinitely more than a crowd of people who like the version of you that does not really exist. And the people in your life who only stay when you are performing, who disappear when you stop adjusting yourself to keep them comfortable, they were not connections worth maintaining. They were relationships built on conditions that required you to be smaller than you are. And losing them is not a loss, it is a clearing. It is space being made for something better. Let me talk about the specific ways that caring too much about what others think is costing you right now, in concrete, measurable, daily ways. It is costing you your time. Every minute you spend thinking about what someone thought of something you said or did. Every hour you spend adjusting your plans because of how they might look to someone else. Every day you delay starting something because you are waiting until you are good enough that the judgment will not sting. It is costing you your energy. the mental and emotional energy of constant self-monitoring, of always having part of your awareness on the imagined audience, of running every decision through the filter of how it will be perceived before you allow yourself to act on it. It is costing you your authenticity. Every time you say something you do not believe to fit in, every time you suppress a genuine opinion because you are afraid of the response, every time you make a choice based on what will look good rather than what is actually right for your life, a piece of your authentic self gets buried a little deeper. And it is costing you your potential. Because the life you are capable of building, the one that exists when you are fully focused on your own growth and completely freed from the weight of other people's opinions, is so much larger than the life you are currently living inside the cage of their approval. So here is what I want you to do. Not in some distant future when you have built enough confidence to stop caring. Now, today. I want you to identify one area of your life where you have been holding back because of what other people might think. One goal you have been afraid to pursue. One change you have been afraid to make. One version of yourself you have been afraid to become because of how it might look to the people around you. And I want you to ask yourself one question about that thing. If nobody was watching, if the audience disappeared entirely, and the only measure of success was your own honest assessment of whether this is the right move for your growth and your life, would you do it? If the answer is yes, then the only thing stopping you is an audience that is not as attentive as you think, a fear of judgment that is larger in your imagination than it will ever be in reality, a performance that is costing you your actual life, while the audience has already moved on to something else. Do it anyway. Not for them, not to prove anything to anyone, for yourself. Because you decided your growth matters more than their opinion. Because you chose your potential over their approval. Because you finally understood the truth that the most successful, most fulfilled, most fully alive people in the world discovered at some point in their journey. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to hand you the life you want. Nobody cares about your development as much as you need to care about it. Nobody is going to do the work for you, or build the habits for you, or make the hard choices for you. It is on you. All of it. Completely and entirely on you. And that is not a burden. That is power. The most liberating realization a human being can have is that their life is entirely their own responsibility, because responsibility and power live in the same place. The person who takes full responsibility for their life also has full power to change it. And the person who is waiting for external validation and external permission and external approval has handed both their responsibility and their power to people who were never meant to carry them. Take them back. Focus on yourself, your growth, your development, your habits, your goals, your potential, your daily actions, your relationship with yourself, your honest assessment of whether you are becoming the person you actually want to be. Give that the energy you have been giving to the crowd, and watch what happens to your life when the most focused, most powerful, most important audience you perform for every single day is yourself. Nobody cares about your success as much as you need it to, so care about it yourself, with everything you have, starting right now.